Yeah. Wake up with coffee and sports. Sunrise glow, listen coast to coast. A flow like you know.
Offensively, who made them? Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
Sideline to sideline with plays to show. This network's got the spark.
When you put up 300 yards rushing against someone, that you got your butt whooped.
I feel like I would have liked to see Oregon Ohio State in the semis, not the quarters. So I think some reseeding is probably where I would change. But
they're out of their mind. They're going to do this 3 quarterbacks in a row.
Here's the crazy.
I just can't take it.
Birds keep flying high, fans cheering loud, and one podcast moving through the crowd. Meaty boys brawling, no holds barred loud. This wire life never in doubt. Tune into the vibe.
That's my bold prediction for the show. Devin Booker, in the next 3 years, he will be a Houston Rocket.
Because I still think Seth is still at the top of his game. I do. I think he's right there. Who knows? Maybe. Not this year, but one time soon. Why wouldn't we potentially see Seth and Roman? You know what I mean?
Tune in the vibe. Morning Reds, Port Centers. Got me on the mic, now let's spill the tea. Talking courtside dreams from history. Legends on the blacktop now and then. From Wilt to Steph, we hit it again. Better chimes in, let's go deep. Young bloods rising, can't skip a beat. Puppy prospects with fire in their eyes. Draft night suckers and hoop dream high. Wire to wire, bring the heat. Podcast magic can't be beat. Do better, but roll better. Or who cares? Trendsetters.
What is poppin', y'all? It is your boy, Guard E3. And, of course, we got to react to what's going on right now. We got Game 6. The real question, is it time to lock the Spurs into their first finals trip since 2014? Or are the Thunder going back-to-back? But if the Spurs want to make it, they got to survive tonight. So, that being said, of course, let me introduce you to the greatest co-host of all time. He is Mo Better. How you doing, Mo? Great start for the Thunder, Spurs, by the way. They have jumped out to a 13-point lead. It is 35-22 at the end of the first quarter. Spurs are doing everything in their power to make sure that this goes back to Oklahoma City for a Game 7.
Spurs come out with a lot of energy.
Absolutely. And perfect timing, pretty much starting right at the beginning of the second quarter. And while it's a commercial break, Mo, you know how we got to start this, though? Underrated player of the week. Mo, who is your underrated player of the week this week?
I think my underrated player of the week, I'm going to go with somebody that's taking their fair share of heat in the media. I'm going to go with Mikal Bridges. I think Mikal Bridges, in a lot of ways, is an unsung hero for the Knicks. You hear people constantly mention that they traded away 4 number ones for him, but they didn't bring him there to be a number one. They brought him there to be an elite defender and a guy that can make open shots when he gets the opportunity. And I think he's been that for them.
No, absolutely. And look, I'll be the first to admit I was completely wrong about the hiring of Coach Brown. I thought it wouldn't be much different than Thibodeau. So obviously, congratulations to every single Knicks fan. You're going to the NBA Finals. Make sure you enjoy it. Opportunity might not come along for a long while after this. So, like I said, I'm really happy for the Knicks and everybody in New York. I was going to say,
I
Mo,
am too. I have
So yeah, we ironically, you know what's funny? My underrated player are kind of players, but there's a common theme, so I'm just gonna link them. My underrated player of the week is a couple of the GMs who were smart enough to take advantage of Daryl Morey and is not knowing what he had. Because I was debating between Jared McCain and Champagny, and then I realized that Morey dropped both of them from Philly. So, say Champagny obviously got waived back in, I believe it was 2022 by the Sixers because they wanted to make room for Mac McClung so he could represent them at the dunk contest. And now he's leading like the Spurs in three-pointers made for the playoffs. And then Jared McCain is a huge reason why the Thunder are just winning all these games because him and the bench unit are going nuts. So shout out to the Spurs and Thunder, ironically, for both just kind of taking advantage of Philly's inability to understand how important marginal like roster moves are.
Look, I agree. Look, the reality is this: the Spurs starters have outplayed the Thunder starters. The reason the Thunder are up 3-2 is their bench. Their bench has been the dominant force in this series. If the Thunder were to win tonight and Alex Caruso had another solid game or a good game, and the Thunder won the conference championship, I'm not sure Alex Caruso wouldn't be the conference MVP. He's been, look, SGA is their best player, and he still sets the table. But I think their best player in this series has been Alex Caruso.
You know what's funny, Mo? I literally in a different Discord yesterday actually asked that question. I said, if the Thunder do win, like with genuinely how good the bench is it somebody from the Thunder bench that can threaten Shea for Finals MVP or Western Conference Finals MVP? I don't think they would, but I genuinely think like Caruso and company have played so well that it wouldn't surprise me to see like, yeah, Shea won, but he barely beat out Alex Caruso and Jared McCain for Western Conference Finals MVP.
Yeah, and look, all I'm saying is if Caruso, like, and obviously the Spurs are out to a good lead and they've got the crowd into it, so maybe we might be talking about a game 7. But if the Thunder were to find a way to come out of this hole and win, and Alex Caruso, let's say he plays another solid game, let's say he goes for 18, 5, and 5, and SGA drops 30, but he has another 7 for 19 shooting night, and predominantly he's effective from the free throw line, I think Caruso would have a shot. I'm not saying he would beat him out for it, but I think it would be very, very close.
Let's see. Hey, Geometry Dash was good. You want the Spurs to win? Look, I'm greedy. I want the Spurs to win too. I don't care who wins the series. I just want a game 7 at this point.
I think we're all on the same page. I know that you and Kyle were on earlier and you guys were like, do we go 7? And I said 7. I said 7. 1, because I do think the Spurs are going to win tonight, but as a selfish, greedy fan, if you will, I want to see a great 7-game series. We talked about these two teams finding and running into each other in the regular season. So I wanted their meeting in the postseason to match what fans expect. If it's a 7-game series, I think it lives up to the hype of it, unless it's a 7-game series and game 7 is like a 40-point blowout. That would be disappointing. But yeah, I want a game 7. I want a game 7 that goes down to the final couple of possessions. I'm greedy like that, but I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't. I'm a fan of all the players on both sides, and I think it's exciting. Obviously, if the Thunder can turn around and go back-to-back or have the opportunity to, I think it's even more exciting that as young as the Thunder are, the Spurs are even younger, and right out the bat, they have a shot to compete for a title, and you look at their 3 best players, and they're like 22 and younger. That's scary.
No, absolutely. I'd say Castle's going to the line for 2. Mo, I will say this series kind of shown the need for like a De'Aaron Fox, though. Even with his like struggles offensively, which he has struggled mightily this series, I feel like games 1 and 2 it just kind of perfectly showed what Castle needs to work on. He's got to work on work. Oh, that was a wild shot. But no, I think Castle's got to work on his decision making with the ball in his hands. When he has to be the primary playmaker without like a Fox to help him out, that was rough the first 2 games. But so I know in the offseason definitely want to watch Castle, see if he works on his decision making some more.
I agree with that. But I would also tell people that I don't look at Castle as a point guard. I look at him as a 2 guard who has the ability to be a secondary facilitator. He's not a point guard. I know he kind of has been forced into that role, but he's not a natural point guard. But the fact that he is as young as he is, I think he will get better with his ball security and his decision making. But yeah, look, the true value with De'Aaron Fox is he's a veteran, been there, done that, and he has some playoff experience. So yeah, I always told people that the value of De'Aaron Fox is that he's in a place where Castle and Harper are trying to get to. And so I think they need to be under his tutelage, if you will, for another year or so. But I think once they start to get it, this might sound cruel, but the faster that Castle and Harper start getting it, the reality is it'll be the end of De'Aaron Fox's tenure in San Antonio.
No, absolutely. I think his tenure is probably coming to an end at some point. But I know everyone's gonna be like, oh, I got to trade him this offseason. I think it'll be another year. I think after next season they trade him.
I agree. I think another year, because I think Castle and Harper are going to be that much better in everything they do this offseason. And look, this series isn't over. They could very well turn around, take it to 7, win game 7. And like I said, they have every much a chance as anybody, including the Knicks, to win it all. I thought the Spurs were a year away. They're proving me wrong just by the fact that they're doing what they're doing right now, going toe-to-toe with the defending champs.
I feel like, too, if I'm the Knicks, I'm praying that you know what's weird? I'm like almost praying I get San Antonio. I just feel like that they're a better, I feel like the Thunder are just a matchup nightmare for the New York Knicks, just genuinely of how many different defensive bodies they can just sit there throwing at Brunson to wear them out. The Spurs are a lot more limited in who they can do that with. So, granted, you have to deal with Wemby. However, I know they probably can't stop him, but I think Cat can somewhat slow him down a little bit, just enough. And to say, I think the Spurs are probably the Knicks' best chance at getting out of the finals with a championship. But the Thunder almost feel like it's just a little too daunting if they're the ones there.
I think both teams present some problems. Although I don't disagree with anybody that wants to point out that right now there's no team playing better basketball in the postseason than the Knicks. That being said, the two teams that I think a lot of us had a shot to go to the finals, they're going up against each other right now. Like, what we didn't get in the Eastern Conference is an epic 7-game series. What we got in the Eastern Conference, and I would argue that this is we got one of the worst conference finals I've ever seen. One of the worst, if not the worst conference final I've ever seen.
You know what's funny about the Eastern Conference Finals, Mo? It happened. The thing happened that I was complaining about. Look, I know like James Harden is flawed and he's so easy to blame. But at the same time, once again, I watched Donovan Mitchell disappear on the Cavs like completely. And it was to a point where the Cavs were winning the minutes where James Harden played without Donovan Mitchell, but we're losing the minutes that Donovan Mitchell played without James Harden. But yet, all the talk wants to be about James Harden. And to me, that's just so weird. Like, I get it. James Harden struggled in game one. That being said, did we not watch the same series? Like, if you're going to kill James Harden, I need you to be like 3 times as hard on Donovan Mitchell because he had to be a lot better than that. He's the guy who's an all NBA player at this point in his career, not James Harden. And yeah, still it's James Harden getting all the heat, it feels like, for the Cavs coming up short and their best players dodging accountability.
I agree. I'm not saying James Harden doesn't deserve criticism. Certainly he does. He didn't play well in clutch time moments. But you brought up something that is a factual thing. The Cavs played better when Donovan Mitchell, I don't know why that is, but they did when he was off the floor at different times. But James Harden's like hanging fruit, so he's an easy target, right? For me, they didn't bring him to Cleveland to be their best player. They didn't bring him to Cleveland to be their second best player. They brought James Harden to Cleveland to buffer Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. And I would ask anybody that watched that series, where was Evan Mobley most of that series? Where was he? Where was he? Especially in clutch time, where was he? I like Evan Mobley as a player. I would absolutely want Evan Mobley on my basketball team because he's a versatile basketball player. I'm a fan. However, I think Cleveland and maybe other people view Evan Mobley as a foundational player that you can build around. I would disagree with that sentiment. I think Evan Mobley is a complimentary star. He will, if he is your best player, you are not a title contender. Plain and simple. He is a very good basketball player, but you don't build around Evan Mobley. You add Evan Mobley to a superstar. Unfortunately, the guy that they've added him to, as much as people like to look at James Harden and talk about the decisions that Atkinson made, Donovan Mitchell, he wavered and kind of flamed out again too as well. And I'm a Donovan Mitchell fan, but we saw what we saw. And the reality is this: if Detroit wasn't exactly who we thought they were, Cleveland wouldn't even made it to the conference finals. Detroit was exactly who we thought they were. And I'm not saying that negatively. I'm just saying anything that was flawed in Detroit was, or what we pointed out was, they didn't have a legitimate second option. They never did. Their second best player is not a second option. That's Jalen Duren. Fortunately for the Pistons in the first round, and in a big chunk of the second round, Tobias Harris was playing like way above his fighting weight, averaging 20 plus, shooting over 50%. But at some point, Tobias Harris kind of came back to earth and looked like the Tobias Harris that I remember from Philadelphia and before that with the Clippers. And if he falls back into being that Tobias Harris, then we're going to be in trouble. And that happened. That's why Cleveland not only got back in that series, they eventually won that series. Detroit they have the right mindset. They have a certain kind of style. They don't have enough firepower. Point blank, period. But let me ask you this, partner. Cleveland took a big swing by trading Darius Garland for James Harden. I know a lot of people are like, they're going to have to bring him back on an extension because you gave up Garland. And a lot of people are like, no, they're going to let him go or they're not going to give him any money. And I'm like, they're not going to just let him go for nothing. They're not going to go, no, we're not bringing back James Harden. You mean you're just going to let him walk and you're not getting any value because you gave up Darius Garland, who's a decade younger than James Harden? I think Cleveland is in a rock and a hard place because they probably don't want to bring him back because of how things went. But if they let him go, who's replacing him? You know what I'm saying? Like, who do they have that they can bring in to be Donovan Mitchell's sidekick, if you will? Because you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like Cleveland that core, Mobley, Mitchell, Allen, obviously Harden just came in this season, but I feel like that core, I think they've ran their course. I don't think they're going to get better. I think they've peaked. I think they've gone as far as they can go as a core.
I think so too. And the funny part about a James Harden extension is I'm more comfortable giving James Harden a couple year extension than what Donovan Mitchell's going to be asking for, ironically. Like, if you're like, I feel like Harden gets like pretty close to what he got on the last deal just over a longer term. So if you told me like, I don't know, like 35 mil a year for Harden over like the next 3 years or so, maybe the third year's partially guaranteed, look like kind of using the Chris Paul contract, Chris Paul's last big contract as a reference. Like, I feel like you can structure James Harden to where it's still tradable and you can still move it if things don't work. The minute the ink dries on that Donovan Mitchell max, or he's eligible for a super max, if they give Donovan Mitchell that super max at age 31, that I don't know if they're going to be trading that by the time he's 33. Like, that next Donovan Mitchell contract is one, if I'm Cleveland, I'm not paying it. I will try to run it back one more time. Maybe I'll move some pieces around, but if that doesn't work, yeah, Mitchell, you're getting shipped out of town. I'm not paying that next contract.
And look, I hear what you're saying, that giving Harden a deal at about 35 mil a year, or probably a 3-year deal, is something they could do. I'll go you further than that. If they pay James Harden 35 million a year, they're paying him way too much fucking. Excuse my French. That's way too much money for James Harden. This isn't all NBA James Harden. This is 36-year-old James Harden, who, by the way, if you watch him play, he looks like 36-year-old James Harden. This isn't the same basketball player. This is not James Harden from even 2 years ago. He can't blow by people like he once did. He doesn't finish at the basket like he used to. I think he can still be an effective player, but to me, I think I think he's got a player option for like $42 million. And if he took that, they'd literally be on the hook for $42 million for next season. If I'm Cleveland, I'd give him a longer deal, but not to where he's making as much per season. So instead of the 1 year $42 million opt-in, I'd be trying to get him at like $70 million. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he's a $35 million player anymore. He's more like a $20 million. And I think that's a lot, because I don't see him making the All-Star team anymore. He's not going to make any more All-NBA teams. He's in a different point in his career in terms of what he can do. Matter of fact, he is at the point in his career where Carmelo Anthony was when Carmelo Anthony went to Oklahoma City. I think it was Oklahoma City or Houston, and he laughed at the idea of coming off the bench. I think James Harden is at that point in his career. He might laugh at the idea of coming off the bench, but really, to me, I think that's where he has true value. Coming off the bench, playing about 25 minutes a night. I think he would be you could extend his career. He could be more effective, and most nights he's playing against other teams' second units. I think he can be more effective in that kind of role. You're asking for James Harden to come back at age 37. So he's going to be that much older, that much slower, that much ineffective. I'm not giving him a big deal. Not after I saw what I saw. I saw what I can't unsee what I saw. The one thing I can promise you, James, you ain't getting no raise. I'm sure Cleveland's going to offer you a fair deal, but it won't be a raise.
Yeah, I was thinking, I feel like it's going to end up something along the lines of, like I said, I feel like we know for a fact, I think he's getting like over 30. I think it's going to be somewhere in that 30 to 35 mil range. Maybe like a 3-year, $100 million with an option at the end.
My only problem with that is that's still a lot to swallow. If they do that, then they get what they deserve. Because I think it would be so foolish. He's just not worth it. Like Steph Curry's 38. He's actually older than James Harden, but he's actually still playing at an all NBA level. James is not. LeBron is, I think he's almost 4 years, he's 4 full years older than James, but he's playing at a higher level than James. Like, to me, James is not like, and maybe this goes back to his, not known for his conditioning and all that kind of stuff. That also impacts how you age. I think James Harden, he probably had his workout routine is probably very similar to Carmelo Anthony's. I think they took care of each of their bodies in a very similar fashion, which is why you get a fall off at a certain point of their career. I'm not saying you're wrong, partner. That you might be spot on. They're going to give him 30 to 35 million. I just think that would be completely foolish.
Yeah, it's funny though. It feels like Cleveland's like in a position where good skip past corner three, way off. Feels like Cleveland might be the spot to kind of go foolish a little bit. Just because it's simple, like if it works out for them, I guess working out for them is winning a title. Great. If it doesn't work out, they probably have to rebuild and trade Mitchell anyway. And at that point, like, what's it really hurting you paying James Harden at that point? Like, you're not really going anywhere anyway. Cleveland's just in a very awkward spot right now. I just don't know how they get out of this hole and try to become title contenders in this Donovan Mitchell era.
I think you have to, with Dan Gilbert and his GM need to get together and have a serious conversation. It's okay to do the hard thing. And the hard thing is to look at your team, look at your core, look at your cap, and look at the surrounding competition in your conference. You can do the hard thing and admit this core has ran its course. And the best thing we could do is tear it all down. I'm not talking about just moving Jared Allen. I'm talking about moving from Donovan Mitchell, maybe putting some kind of package together for somebody. Because there's always going to be a team that'll want James Harden's services.
No,
there will be. The only question is, even if you tore it down and you kept Evan Mobley, who is a talented player, there's no guarantee when you're going to draft that next superstar, if you will, because I think Evan Mobley's terrific, but he's not a superstar.
The real question, Mo, if we're talking about contract extensions, how much are the Pistons paying Jalen Duren? That will be a fun one.
Oh, I can already tell everybody. You call it spoiler alert. Don't even. I know a lot of you people out there talking about it. He ain't getting no Supermax. Y'all can stop that. He ain't getting no Supermax. And I'm sure him and his agent are like, Jalen just made All NBA, a third team All NBA. He made the All Star team. He had a breakout season. Both of those things are absolutely true. And then the playoffs hit, and GMs and owners look at that, what you do in the playoffs too. And based off of, and by the way, this isn't like Jalen Duren went from averaging 19 and 11 to averaging 17 and 10. He went from averaging 19 and 11 to averaging like 9 and 10. And at times he was unplayable. And I'm a Jalen Duren fan, but he just seemed like he was not ready for the postseason. There is no way he's getting a Supermax.
I saw too. I saw somebody use the infamous Michael Jordan meme when asked if they think Jalen Duren should get a Supermax. If anybody doesn't know about the Michael Jordan meme, there's a very specific one people use in contracts. So, for backstory on this one, I believe it was 2018, there was a free agent by the name of Kemba Walker who was eligible to be all NBA. So guess what? He was eligible for the Supermax, which the Charlotte Hornets offered him about, I believe it was $60 million less than the Supermax. It was like their best offer topped out at like $160 million. To which somebody made a tweet, and this is kind of lives in infamy among the Jordan memes, of the gif of Michael Jordan just kind of shaking his hands like this, and when Kemba said Super Max, I said Super Hell No. So it's that's kind of where I'm at with Jalen Duren too. I'm like, because as soon as somebody says the word supermax, I'm like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen. Congrats on their All NBA dude, but I think it did help him a ton though. I feel like he's gonna get like, if I had to guess, I feel like he's gonna get around like 200 million.
Yes. And here's the crazy part. He's going to get like $200 million. And people are going to be like, man, they did him wrong. He only, like, when somebody uses the words only $200 million, I don't want to ever hear only $200 million. I'm actually a fan of Jalen Duren. I like the way he's worked himself into being an all-star caliber player. I do remind people he is 22. He is still a developing player. He is not a finished product. But Pistons management can't be naive enough to go, well, based on potential, we should just go ahead and give him the supermax. That would be front office suicide. And like I said, I like Jalen Duren, but clearly there's a lot of work needed on his post game, his face up game. I said this a couple of shows ago. I'll say it again. You have the money, Jalen Duren. Go spend a summer with Akeem Olajuwon. It will change your career for the better.
I would absolutely love that. Yeah, it feels like the quickest way for the Pistons to slam their window closed before it even opens would be to give Duren, that 35% of the cap, because allocating 70% of your cap to Caden Duren it feels like the most middling thing you can do, unless if Duren just next year comes in and turns into prime Amari Stoudemire or something absurd. But
yeah, I was getting ready to say, if he comes in and suddenly like he's unguardable and he's a handful, I got you. But if your Pistons manager, the reality is, do I think Duren will get better this offseason and improve? I do. But I still don't think he's the second option that they need. He's the third option. They're still searching for a second option. And I have to believe that getting a second option to pair with Cade Cunningham has to be priority one for Pistons management this offseason.
Absolutely. Yeah, I say, I think the most you go with Duren is like 210, and anything over that, you probably just wish him well in his future endeavors and sign and trade him at that point.
Oh yeah, if he wants more than that, then we're definitely talking sign and trade. And if somebody's going to pay him close to what he's asking and his agent is asking, God bless you, man. God bless you.
I say, I know the max other teams can offer him is 177, so you got to come in strong over that 177 number. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull it off or what they work out with him. Jaylen Brown wants to work with Hakeem in the summer. Hey, that'd be fun.
See, JB gets it. And every year that I've watched him develop over the years, he's always come back in the offseason and added something else to his game. Jaylen Brown working with Hakeem in the offseason, adding to his post game, that's going to be a problem. I love that idea. I hope he does work with him.
So, yeah, absolutely. Say, Mo, by the way, about Wemby, when's the last time we've seen a player make the leaps that Wemby has? Like, we're already talking about him potentially being the best player in the world, and he's in year 3. I can't remember the last time in like year 3 we've gone, yeah, that guy's probably just the best player in the world. Like if we go that far back,
especially at it. We'd have to go back pretty far. I mean, Brett, he's 22, and we're already saying best player in basketball. He's 22. I'd love to hear anybody else make the case, but he's 22, and they were talking about a lot of guys being the face of the league, but he's going to be the face of the league at 22. I don't know who made that kind of leap. It would have to go. It would have to be years back. we're talking about somebody at age 21, 22 making that kind of leap. It's been a minute since we've seen something like that.
I say the last guy I can think maybe we could say year 3 they were best in the world, like Kareem. After that, it's not cut and dry, but it feels like Kareem was pretty clear cut best player in the world year 3. But after that, like Bird had Magic to contend with, so that wasn't necessarily clear cut. LeBron had
they went back and forth,
like Kobe, Duncan, and company to contend with. Like it's been a minute since we've seen somebody take these leaps that Wemby has.
Honestly, I don't think there's a better example than the one you just put out there. I actually think you're spot on. I think it's Kareem. And let's remember, obviously, he won Rookie of the Year his rookie year, but his second year in the league, he was league MVP, and they won the finals, I believe, right? They brought Oscar Robertson. He was a champion in year 2, and he won the MVP. He was the best, like just the next year. That's the crazy part. And the funny thing is, it's not like he had a bad rookie year. In his rookie season, he took them to the conference finals. They just didn't win.
Yeah, it feels like too, like you can make the argument, like I don't even think you can make the argument that, was MJ the best player in the league by year 3? That just doesn't seem cut and dry either. Like
I don't think he was. I don't think he was.
He was very much trending in that direction. Like you knew he was special at that point, but like I said, for clear cut best player in the world by year 3, I almost think you'd have to go back to Kareem.
I think that's the gap right there, Brett. It's Kareem, and here we are in 2026. It's Wemby because Jordan was terrific when he was 22, 23, but he was not the best player in basketball. Nobody was thinking that way. People were talking about how exciting he was and the things he could do, but the best players in basketball, there were 2 guys, and one was on the Lakers, and one was on the Celtics. I don't think Jordan got that kind of acknowledgement till he was like 25 or 26.
Yeah, like it felt like by the time like 88, like an 88 rolled around, you just kind of knew like this guy's just the best player in the league. But But even then, like Magic put together like a really historic 1987 season. So But yeah, no, this is just special stuff that we're witnessing. It's very rare you see a guy like take a leap like this. I remember rookie year, I'm like, okay, he's probably just straight up a top 20 player already. That's pretty nutty. Haven't seen anything like that. Then he pretty much misses most of his second year with blood clots. Then he comes back year 3, and you're just like, oh, this guy's just the best in the league. All right. And that's, to me, too, that's part of the crazy part, Mo. He's doing this all while missing half a season in year 2.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. My only hesitation or concern about whether Wemby is going to be the best player or one of the 2 best players, maybe there'll be somebody else and they'll go back and forth, is you can't predict health. And I told somebody that earlier today. I said, if I can get 10 healthy seasons, not 15, not LeBron like with 22 or whatever, but if I can get 10 healthy seasons from Victor Wembanyama, I think I can get 3 to 5 titles. I think I can get 3 to 5 finals MVPs, not to mention all the statistical things he's going to do with block shots and so on. Like, and that's at a minimum. I'm just talking about 10 years. What if he gives you 12 or 15 if he can stay healthy? Like, we're talking about somebody, I don't want to go crazy, but we are talking about somebody, I think, if I can get 10 healthy seasons, he's going to be in that all-time, best ever conversation. He's going to be in that top 10. It's funny because the top 10 all-time in most lists, it's littered with Lakers and a couple Celtics. But if Wemby gives me 10 healthy seasons, there's going to be 2 Spurs on that list because Tim Duncan's already there. Wemby will be joining him.
I thought you were trying to manifest Wemby to the Lakers.
You know what? I've got a lot of dreams and wishes, but I know that's not going to happen. That's not gonna happen.
Hey, it's all right.
I can confess openly. It was years ago when you remember when Doc Rivers blew it when Tim Duncan could have gone to the Magic.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah.
I thought in that window there where he blew it, I thought, oh, maybe the Lakers can do something. Of course, it never happened, but look, I think Wemby has that kind of potential, and I don't want to get ahead of myself because it is potential. But the only thing that's going to prevent him from being an all-time great, in my opinion, is health.
No, absolutely. I love the Peacock team that they have on NBC with Melo and T-Mac and everybody talking hoops at halftime. That's terrific.
They put together a crew that has good natural chemistry because you get Melo talking, T-Mac, and then Vince chimes in. I like listening to the three of them chop up hoops.
I'd say I think one of the things that terrifies me about Wemby the most is just his range. Like that's something that terrifies me. Like honestly, that shot in game 1 he hit from like 30 was maybe the most absurd thing I've seen a center do in a minute. The gall to take that at the beginning of the shot clock. Like you had a full 24 and he's just like, nah, I just want this right now. And he nothing but net. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You have to be a certain level of psycho to even consider taking that shot.
I gotta tell you, it's just a moment, but in that moment, it was beyond impressive because I can't count how many times I've seen Steph Curry walk into a three like that in that kind of situation. But we're talking about Steph Curry, and then I see a guy who's 7'5" step into that shot, into that moment. But he did it so fluently, so confidently, it's crazy. Like to have the mental toughness to be like, I not only want this moment and know how big a shot this is, like to just step into it. A lot of guys want to be stars. And then there's guys that come into the league and they don't make it a secret. They want to be known as the greatest player that ever played when it's all said and done. Wemby's one of those guys. He's not making it a secret. He's not saying like, well, I'm just trying to have a great career, do what I can, and this and that. He's telling you, I want to be known as the best player that ever played when it's all said and done. I love that kind of bravado, that kind of confidence. Wemby's a different kind of dude.
Absolutely. And then, of course, they got their new age Manu and Dylan Harper. That six-man would be a starter on 99% of the league, but he just happens to be in San Antonio.
You know what? We were just talking about potential. I'm going to say something that some will agree with, maybe most will disagree with. I think when it's all said and done, and by the way, I'm a huge Stephen Castle fan. Huge. But I think when it's all said and done, barring injuries, because you can't predict health, when it's all said and done, I actually think Dylan Harper is going to be better than Stephen Castle.
I think so.
And by the way, I think Stephen Castle's going to have a terrific career. I'm just telling you, Harper's going to be as good as Stephen Castle's going to be, and I think he might make he can make 3 or 4 or 5 All-Star teams. I think Dylan Harper is going to be even better.
I think that Dylan Harper, I genuinely think that he has the talent if he can mature it. I think his ceiling is all NBA. I think Stephon Castle's closer to like high end, like all-star, like an all-star, like really good. Like I remember talking about these two earlier, and I still like kind of to give people an image of kind of what I'm envisioning. I think Dylan Harper can get up, like I said, to an all NBA level. I see Stephon Castle more getting up to like a Drew Holiday level, where he's like a 3-time All-Star. You know how good he is, but I don't think he quite ever hits the levels that Dylan Harper will end up reaching.
And guess what? That's not a bad thing, especially if they're going to be teammates, let's say, for the next 7 years or so. Because if I tell you, well, Dylan Harper or Stephen Castle is going to be 7-time All NBA defense and be a 3 or 4-time All Star. That's a hell of a career right there. But if you're a 4-time All Star and a 7-time All NBA defender, and you're part of a franchise that, let's say, wins 2 or 3 titles, that actually elevates everything else. And I think I look at Harper as the kind of guy that I know Wemby's going to win an MVP. He might win 3, 4, or 5 of them. But I think Dylan Harper might win 1 or 2. I think he's that dynamic a player. I think Wemby's clearly their best player. This not up for conversation. But I think if Harper reaches his peak, their dynamic is going to be more of a back and forth than it's going to be, Wemby's the man and Harper's his co-star. I think Harper has the talent to make their dynamic be more like Kobe and Shaq.
I'm excited to see how the future plays out for them. I do think that they need the Spurs' first move in the offseason has to to mess with their bench quite a bit. And I think their bench has a really good start. I like Champagnie, I like Harper. They got some good pieces, but why are 3 roster spots being taken up by Biyombo, Plumlee, and Kelly Olynyk? I'm sorry. I understand if you want to have one veteran presence, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, you already have Harrison Barnes on a multi-year deal, and then you have those 3 at the if you want to keep for example, if you think Plumlee's the best locker room presence, so you want to keep Plumlee, that's great, but then you really don't need Bismack and Kelly Olynyk. So I do think that the end of the bench, that 9th, 10th man spots, 11th, I think that will need some tweaking because I think there's just too much capital being used on, I guess, veteran presences.
No, I agree. I also agree that the dynamics of the Spurs and the Thunder are very interesting because we both agree the Spurs need to improve their bench depth because their starters are still developing, but they're young and incredibly talented. The flip side is OKC has the best bench in basketball, but I would argue their starting 5 is not the best starting 5 in basketball. And really, watching these playoffs, like I've watched these playoffs, I do think Sam Presti is one of those kind of GMs. I still think he's the best GM in basketball. That knowing that he's dealing with a championship caliber roster, if they were to come up short, meaning the Spurs came back and out won the series, I don't think Sam Presti would stand pat and go, well, we just lost and it's not a problem. They're a younger team. We're a young team. We'll just run it back. I think Sam Presti would do something. He would do something to change the dynamic of the roster. And he's not going to change the bench because they've already got the best bench in basketball. But I would say this. I think this guy is very tradable because he's a complimentary star. He's no better than an Evan Mobley. I'm not even sure he's better than Evan Mobley. I think he would entertain trading Chet. Because of their 3 stars, if you will, Chet's the most tradable. He's 7'1", but a lot of times he plays like he's 6'3" or smaller. Just the fact that we're watching this series and that they don't want to play him on Wemby. They don't want to guard. I don't know how I would feel about that. I know Wemby's 7'5", but you're 7'1". You're not 6'8". You're 7'1", and you're athletic, and you're agile, and you're quick. I'm not saying you can shut Wemby down or you can even stop Wemby, but if you're 7'1" and you're talented and you're a good defender, you should at least be able to compete against him. And my problem with Chet is I don't see a willingness to compete against Wemby, and I don't understand that.
I think the Wemby thing with Chet, it's just all mental because he has the tools that really give Wemby a hard time. He has the agility and speed and the length, as much length as you can possibly throw at Wemby. Right. It's just Wemby takes that matchup so personal every time and just gets hyper aggressive that it's just you almost want to put someone like Ihart on him because it's like, well, maybe it's like showing a bull red. It's like, well, maybe if I don't show him Chet, he'll like chill on the perimeter on this possession. But like, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird with the Wemby and Chet because every time Wemby sees Chet, he's throwing a shoulder into him and he's going straight to the basket. And Chet does not seem to know how to handle the mind games that Wemby plays.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I get it. It's personal for Wemby, but my thing is, if you're Chet, like you pointed it out. A lot of things that we talk about Wemby, his coordination, his quickness, his agility, because Wemby doesn't move like a center. And I'm like, Chet's the same way. He doesn't move like a center. Like, if I was going to say, give me somebody who would be the perfect guy to at least try to guard Wemby or slow him down, it would be somebody with Chet's skill set. The only thing that's missing from Chet is a mental toughness to take on the challenge. But you're right. He is the perfect matchup. I'm not saying stop him, but he's the perfect matchup if you wanted somebody to guard him and at least slow him down or compete with him. And that's frustrating. Don't forget, Wemby's 22. Chet's actually the older guy. He's 24, but when you see them together, Wemby treats Chet like he's a young boy.
Say, I am really excited to visit that stadium. If anybody doesn't know, one of my goals is to visit as many sports stadiums as possible before I just cannot travel anymore. So hopefully I got another like 30 years or something like that. But San Antonio is definitely on the list.
Oh, you got to go on a Riverwalk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Maybe I'll I think my problem, though, is I'm going to be I'll be thinking of Charles every time I go to San Antonio because
with the churros and the big women.
Yeah. Go see the big old women down in San Antonio. I literally associate San Antonio and Charles Barkley now. It's kind of funny like that. How much he's talked about him. Now when I think San Antonio, for some reason, my first thoughts is Barkley. I'd pay for this.
Yeah, I've been to San Antonio. I've actually been on the Riverwalk. I don't know. Maybe Charles went on a bad day, but the women, all the women in San, they're not big women. I don't even know why he says that. It's not true.
No, that's fair. I know. Go to Phoenix to eat the cold nachos. Yeah, there we go. Ooh, Devin Vassell feeling it. He bangs one down.
Okay, I feel like we're going to Game 7.
So it feels like.
At least, I guess anything's possible, but that's what it feels like.
It feels like it's going to come down to can the Spurs maintain the shooting all the way to the end? Because it feels like the difference right now is the Spurs are just lighting it up from three.
Yeah, look, if the Spurs are going to shoot this consistently throughout this game, we're going 7. And more importantly, they're not turning the ball over as much. That's big too.
Oh, they called goaltending on that?
Oh wow.
Was it going? What? I didn't think that was on the way down. What a block by Champagny.
Let me ask you a question, partner. What are your thoughts on the fact that the Clippers ended up with the 5th pick in the draft?
I think that's great for the Clippers. I saw some people kind of using that as a gotcha moment, trying to think that as if that had any bearing on how to view the Zubac trade. But I think it still works out for the Pacers. Obviously, you'd rather have picked 1 through 4 and Zubac, but
for sure.
Yeah, you still got the best center on the market at the end of the day, and like I said, it's good for the Clippers. They need a youth infusion. Now, don't do something stupid like trade it for some vet.
Oh my God, you read my mind because it's such a Clipper thing to do to trade that pick for a veteran who's on the other side of their prime. Like, don't do it. You need to draft some young pieces. You need to add some youth to that old roster. Yeah, I hope they use that pick and keep that pick. And I'm with you. I think Zubac is going to be terrific for the Pacers, especially if we get back a fully healthy Halliburton. He's gonna throw so many lobs to Big Z. Like that lob combination is gonna be one of the best in the NBA.
Absolutely. Say, I could see it, Mo. Hey, we need, we want to win now with Kawhi, and we need a center. Let's trade for Joel Embiid.
They would do it. They would do it. They would do it.
I better not say that too loud. Say they might be listening. Lawrence Franks might be listening.
Be careful. Look, Steve Ballmer is a hell of a fan. He's a rich man. He's obviously a committed owner. But that seems like an impulse move he would do. He'd be like, if I get a healthy Kawhi and a healthy Joel, well, if you get a healthy Kawhi and a healthy Joel, they'll be unhealthy before the season's over, Steve. That's how it normally works.
Say that's the Sixers. Say that if we got a healthy Paul George, we get a healthy Joel, and that kind of worked for the Boston series, but then that just took everything out of them, and it fell apart against the Knicks. But say here we go, 2-man game with McKay. You know what's funny, Mo? People want to get at Jared McCain, because he paints his nails and does TikTok dances, but it's funny. Then they turn around and they complain that, the league isn't tough, complain about toughness in the league. If people would just kind of watch Jared McCain, the player, and not Jared McCain, what he does, like outside off the court, I feel like more people would love him. Like, I'm watching this and he just genuinely seems like right now, for example, the only one who's aggressively ready to take it to Wemby every time. Like Jared McCain he plays tough.
I'm a fan. Tremendous competitor, ultra aggressive player. Will drive the basket, get downhill with the best of them. And he's actually a surprisingly good 3-point shooter. He struggled. He's kind of been hot and cold in the postseason, but Jared McCain's a pretty good three-point shooter. I know his shot isn't the most artful looking shot. It's like a line drive. There's no art to it. But he's an effective 3-point shooter. And I love when Jared McCain attacks the basket. Not to mention, he's actually very competitive on the defensive end. I don't know how you give up on that younger talent. The only kind of GM that would do that would be a Daryl Morey. He's the only kind of guy that would do that. Let me get rid of this young dude so I can bring in these older guys. I just the most overrated GM of all time. You gifted the defending champions a 21-year-old who's still developing.
Clippers should go all in on the AARP squad. Get LeBron and Harden back. There we go.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I just want him off my team, but I'm okay with that.
Oh, I you know what? It's perfect.
And I don't understand why people criticize him for his nails or the TikTok. So what he does TikTok? I got no problem with that.
Say, you know what? They got the perfect center for the AARP squad already, Mo. They have Brooke Lopez on the roster. We just got to find like a really old shooting guard. Like maybe they can call Eric Gordon or something. And we can have the first ever starting five with no fast break points the entire season.
Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know what they're gonna do. I hope they use the pick, but if you've watched the way the Clippers operate over the years, my gut instinct is they're gonna trade that pick. They're gonna trade that pick.
Hey, the 1 year they won the lottery, they couldn't even use the pick.
They're gonna try to win now. And my problem with Clippers. Yeah, look, my problem with the Clippers is the window has closed. You're not a title contender. Your title window that was gone like 3 years ago. Y'all got to stop. It's time to rebuild. Move Kawhi and get whatever you can get for him. Even if you can't get a haul and you're not going to get one, maybe you get back cap space. That's a lot too. Take it.
I actually
I'd move off of Kawhi. I'd move off of all of the veterans.
You know what's funny, Mo? I think if they want a haul for Kawhi, then they move him. They should move him this year because I think this is the last year you still could get a haul for Kawhi with how good he was. Like, I think he made his last All NBA team. If I'm the Clippers, I'm maximizing that value. Like, all right, who wants Kawhi? Bidding starts at 2 first. And honestly, Mo, if they traded him like right now, I feel like they could at least get a couple firsts for him, which would probably do him a lot better in the long run than, keep holding on to him and maybe winning 50
really
games and getting smoked in the first round.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know why they want to hold on to him, but if they were smart, yeah, you would be better off moving him and getting some assets for the future, because right now with him as your best player, he's going to get you into the playoffs and then you're going to get destroyed. You just don't have enough around him to be a legitimate contender. They're not contenders. There's title contenders and there's teams that contend for playoff spots. The Clippers are the latter.
No, absolutely. I think if they want to maximize on his return, I know it's a hard choice, but at this point, you just do it now. Trade him to whatever team could use a mercenary like Kawhi Leonard. There we go. Oh, I can already. Oh man, I can already see it. Never mind. Packing in already. John Horst probably already has the call made. Kawhi Leonard to Milwaukee to keep Giannis happy. There it is. It hit me mid
to Milwaukee.
It just hit me mid talking. I'm like, who would really need Kawhi Leonard? I'm like, it's the Bucks, and they're desperate enough.
Yeah. Everything Kyle just put out there, that's facts. And I'm a Kawhi fan, but I'm a realist too. I do think at this stage in his career, he's still an elite player, but you can't rely on him to be your best player and expect to be a title contender. Wherever he goes, he needs to go somewhere where they already have a franchise player, and he's not the guy. He needs to do something that he hasn't done since he was a young guy in San Antonio. He needs to be a complimentary star to somebody else's franchise player.
Oh, we got a Shea on Wemby, ISO, and Wemby. What a shot by Shea. Jesus. He had to get a lot of arc on that shot just to get it over Wemby. What a hit. I feel, what a rough start for Fox. I just feel so bad for Fox. He's having such a rough series. And it's like a lot of these shots are good looks. They're just not falling for him right now.
Let me ask you this. You've been watching the playoffs like I have. Obviously, this series is in game 6. What are your thoughts on all the criticism and the complaining that suddenly now SGA is the face of flopping and foul baiting?
I think that people have gone too far with their flopping criticisms. You know what's funny, Mo? We've come full circle. You know what I saw on Twitter? Somebody called somebody called SGA the face of foul baiting, and somebody mentioned LeBron, and the one guy actually said, yeah, but LeBron tries to play through contact and he doesn't really flop. I'm like, we are literally coming full circle to a point where now like LeBron doesn't flop, even though everybody wanted to say he's the one that started this all. And that was so funny to me. I'm like, Twitter really hates Shea enough that they're willing to be like, yeah, LeBron never flopped just to put Shea down some more. That was funny.
My only problem is it's something that Adam Silver, I heard him say it before, but I said it and I actually agree with it. There's a difference between flopping and being able to foul bait, right? Like if you can bait people into fouls, that's not flopping. That's kind of just playing into what the rules permit you to do. I don't think SGA I think that you can call it I don't want to say it's a talent, but a lot of great scorers can do it. Look, James Harden has been foul baiting, if you will, for 15 years. 15 years he's been doing that. And I don't think LeBron is the face of foul baiting, but even though he's 6'9" and 260 pounds, he does flop. That is a factual thing. He does flop. And he does try to, like, he tries to foul bait. Now, he doesn't do it at the level as SGA or DeMar DeRozan or Harden or Trae Young. I keep going. But he doesn't do it. He's just not as good at it. Luka's a foul baiter, but they don't talk about Luka that way. DeMar DeRozan, and maybe it's because he's a second tier star. He's been foul baiting for over 15 years. Ain't nobody talking about him. He's been doing it for over 15 years. Trae Young foul baits. Luka foul baits. Like, why are we suddenly trying to make? And the weird thing is, it's not like Shea's a rookie. He's been doing this for a while, but they won a title last. It's funny because people loved SGA coming into the start of last season, and then he won the MVP, and the season played out. And by the season's end, they were sick of him. He's a foul baiter, and then they won the title, and they really are sick of him. And they came into this season, and it's SGA this, that, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't make him the face of something that James Harden has been the face of for almost a decade and a half. If you're not going to call Harden a foul baiter, then I don't want to hear you complain about SGA.
It also feels like people saying that, like, guys like LeBron and SGA started foul baiting also really don't understand the art of foul baiting.
Yeah,
because I'm like, dude, I've watched Chris Paul foul bait everybody for years. I watched Damian Lillard foul bait everybody for years.
Yeah,
obviously we can keep going back. Do we think the Mavs were ruthlessly murdering Dwayne Wade in the 06 finals, or is Dwayne Wade just a master manipulator? Like, he's a major foul baiter too. Do we think that Dennis Rodman could really hang with massive monsters like Shaq, or did he have to flop at times to make sure to get some calls? Like foul baiting's been around forever. People just all of a sudden are paying more attention to it now because, granted, I think the guys nowadays, and this is probably the real problem, have cranked it up to 10. But in all reality, LeBron didn't start foul baiting. SGA didn't start foul baiting.
Right.
Like, I can go back to the 80s and find videos of Jordan foul baiting. Like, if you can get any extra advantages from the rest, you're going to get it.
And that's my only thing. You don't have to like it. If you want to tell me you're not a fan of, SGA style, I'm okay with that. Stylistically, you might not love it, but don't tell me he's not a great player, or don't tell me he's only a great player because he foul baits. That's not true.
And, like, in terms of free throw attempts, among, like, the last 15 MVPs, Shea's, like, 7th.
Oh, I know.
You would think with the conversation that they had with him, like, you would think he's, like, first, and it's by far, but in all reality, his MVP this year, for example, in 24-25, a little under 9 free throws a game. Like, that's not even the top 5. Like, Embiid, Russ, Harden, Giannis, Durant,
Luka
all shot more free throws than him in their MVP years. So, yeah, so it's just a weird conversation. My biggest problem with the foul baiting conversation, I think, mainly is we can't just pick and choose who we like and don't like. Who's a foul baiter? Who's ethically trying to get calls?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like we could do a whole show, because a lot of people, if you listen to them talk and with the criticism of SGA, they act like there's such thing as honorable foul baiters. You know what I mean? Like, they will argue, well, he doesn't do it to the point that I don't want to hear that. A lot of these people that criticize him, I feel like you just don't like him. Just say you don't like him, but don't say he's doing something different that we've never seen before. I've seen this before. I've you can go back years and I've seen. Look, if you don't think Kobe drew fouls or foul baited, then you're not being honest. And like you said, you don't think Michael Jordan drew every great scorer. Maybe they do it to different levels, but every great scorer foul bait. Durant foul baits. What's that move that he does if somebody gets too close to him? He does a thing where he brings his arms up underneath them and acts like he's shooting. That's foul baiting. I've seen him and Chris Paul do that move 1,000 times.
Yeah, that little like rip through where as soon as you stick your hand in to try to feel from CP3, just immediately rips through and shoots it.
Exactly.
It's a great move.
Does it too. It is a great move, but nobody goes, "Oh, it's CP3's foul bait." He is. But it's not anything illegal. It's not anything dirty. It's within the rules. And all I'm saying, if you don't like how he plays, it's not him. You're going to have to go to Adam Silver and have Adam Silver change the rules and how the game is called. But don't blame the player.
And it's funny because we already know Adam Silver doesn't care. He talks about, you're talking today about how it's not as big a deal as everybody makes it. But they'll run new lottery reform rules through in 3 months, even if they don't make sense.
They don't.
I feel so bad for the Memphis Grizzlies.
They got screwed.
They got screwed so hard. If anybody doesn't know, they came out with the new lottery reform rules. Those got approved today. And one of the stipulations is, I believe it's 3 years in a row. If you're in the top 5, you can. In the top 5, you can't be a top 5 pick at that point. Well, apparently, that also includes traded picks. So now that the Grizzlies got from the Jazz next year in the Jared Jackson trade it's capped at the best pick they can get is the 6th pick with it because of that rule. So
right,
I almost thought that maybe they should have just made that one pick the exception, since it's literally the only pick next year, like in the immediate future, that's affected by it. But it's an interesting one. But overall, I'm not a big fan of them just running the new lottery reform rules that quickly.
Yeah, I and I didn't like it. Like I said, I think Adam Silver wants to appear to be at least trying to address the situation. I don't think what he's done is the right answer, though. No,
and I feel like you didn't really fix the problem. You just moved the goalpost. So I'm just gonna throw out the odds, kind of new in the current system and then the new system. So, for example, this year in the draft, the number 1 pick, you had a 14% chance for that pick to convey to be the number 1 pick. Now, if you're the worst team in the league with the worst record, that 14% is now 5%. 5.4 to get technical. If you have one of the 3 worst records in the league, in the old system, the top 3 teams had a combined percentage of 40.1% to get the number 1 pick. And under this new system, if you're one of the 3 worst teams in the league, you combined are 16.4% chance to get that number 1 pick. If you're one of the top 5 picks in the league, you had an 100% chance to get the top pick in the old system, or pretty close to it. And then, of course, now it's just to get the best chance at the number 1 pick, you have to be in that 6 to 12 range, where under the new proposal, you have a 71% chance to get it if you combine all the odds between, pick 6 and 12. But that's kind of where my frustration is, Mo, because you didn't fix anything. All you did was make it, I guess, slightly more competitive, but also now you're just see teams that they're going to give up kind of closer to the middle of the year, because as soon as they get locked into that 6 spot, that 6 through 12 range, guess what? Now it's going to be, now we got to start, winning, like losing and winning just enough to keep that spot in check. So,
right.
Like, it doesn't feel like you solved anything. It just feels like you slightly moved the goalpost back. And now the bad teams that are like really bad and need the best players in these drafts, you just made it harder for them to get it.
Yeah. And I know the argument is you want to, stop teams from obviously doing what they're in terms of losing on purpose. And you don't want to reward losing. I get that, but I'm with you. I think they just moved the goalpost, but you didn't actually solve the problem in a weird way, because this, every team is going to adjust. I'm talking about I should say every GM and president is going to adjust. And look, they'll find a way around that, like you said, with how they win or lose. Like, I don't think Silver solved anything. I don't think he changed anything.
Yeah, like I said, no, and then the other fun thing that he did, I don't know if you saw this part of it. I believe they inversed the entire second round too. So pretty much the order of the second round is pretty much, I believe it's like reverse lottery. So you're like 16th pick or whatever. Whoever's picking last in the lottery will get the first pick in the second round. So like they just made a lot of changes, and I'm like kind of looking through them. It's just like I don't really know if this fixes anything. Oh, good play by Case and Wallace. This is kind of why this Thunder team. This is Case and Wallace just kind of showed me why I think that they're a matchup nightmare for the Knicks. Again, there's just no other team that can employ like 3 all NBA level defenders to throw at Brunson like the Thunder can just seamlessly do.
No, I'll give you that. And here's the crazy part. The best perimeter defender on the Thunders, it's actually not Caruso. Caruso's terrific. It's Case and Wallace. Case and Wallace is a better defender than Lou Dort. I know Lou Dort was terrific last year, but I'm just going off of this year. Case and Wallace was their best perimeter defender.
No, absolutely, and that's kind of what's scary, because then you could literally make sure you have an all NBA defender on them at all times. Like, say, like, hey Dort, you're tired. All right, Caruso, get in there. Oh, now Caruso is tired. All right, Kaysen, go get Brunson. Like, but at the same time, it's just kind of neutralized to an extent, because if you get the Spurs, it's just like, oh, well, Cat, you got to survive Wemby. Good luck. Granted, I do think they have a very good Wemby defender on that team, but it isn't Karl Anthony Towns.
It's not. And so, yeah, there's a strong enough case where I get what some people would say you'd rather play the Spurs than the Thunder because of the depth they have on the wing defensively. They have so many. I mean, we didn't even get to AJ Mitchell, who can score and defend at a high level. J-Dub, when he's healthy, J-Dub is an elite defender. But because he's their second best player, I'm talking about Karl Anthony Towns, it's not as simple as saying, well, Wemby's better than Cat. Wemby's not just better than Cat, he's better than him in a way where he could shut Cat down. Like, there's a way that the Spurs could beat them, because I think Wemby could literally just outperform Cat. I think there would be a separation in that matchup. I don't think they would go back and forth. I don't think it's like, well, Wemby's dropping 28 a night and Cat's good for 25 or 26. I don't think it'll be that close. I think Wemby. Look, I'm a Karl Anthony Towns fan because I think he's greatly underappreciated for the player that he is. But I think Wemby is a very tough matchup for Towns because he has the quickness and an agility to where he can go out and play away from the basket and take away one of Towns' weapons. And it's not like Towns can look at him and go, well, I'll blow by him because he's a center. And like, no, Wemby's actually quicker and more athletic than Towns. I don't think he could. So I literally think he would negate anything Towns could do.
No, absolutely. And I think if you're the Knicks and you have to guard Wemby, I think genuinely you keep Cat off of him and you put OG on him.
I think OG's a better matchup for him. I agree.
I think with Wemby, the key is you need somebody really strong, but with a lower center of gravity. And I think Cat's just straight up too tall and a bit too uncoordinated. I think you go with the smaller, stronger OG. You put Cat on the worst shooter on the court, and you have him at help side, and you just pray that you can force enough misses for it to say, to win the game at that point.
Speaking of which, 87-64. Look, I'm not one of those guys that say it's over, but it kind of feels like game 6 is over. And you can go off trends. And right now the Thunders couldn't hit water if they fell out of boat. Like they've gotten all kind of good looks, but they just can't hit anything. And the Spurs are starting to like just kind of like impose their will. They're already up 23. At some point, if you're Dagnall, you might want to rest your starters and start thinking about getting ready for Game 7. I also think it's a little telling that the last two Spurs the Spurs last two wins have been blown out. They've blown them out. This is another blowout.
I think there's a big key with the Spurs and I think the big thing with them is, and this kind of goes to Game 7, the game just cannot turn into a grind. They have to make sure that they're running, playing a lot of free flowing, because the minute the game turns into a grind, that's OKC's game. They love the grind, so they just got to keep moving fast. They got to keep free flowing. Like, they look really good tonight, but I think the big thing is they're not letting OKC get into this game. They're making sure that this doesn't turn into a slog. So I think the key with this is just make sure in Game 7 you keep doing what you're doing tonight. Look for shots close to the rim and just keep running. Keep putting pressure on this OKC team.
Yeah, I agree. OKC want to walk the ball up on offense and break you down with their half court offense. And defensively, they want to slow you down and make it into a slog, disrupt things, get in the passing lane. They'll only play fast if their defense is causing you to turn the ball over at a high rate. But you're right. OKC wants this to be more of a grind. That's their style. They want it to be a half court slug. And I don't think the Spurs are built for that. I think the Spurs are at their best when they're playing fast.
I'm not I don't know. I'm not always a big fan of a heat check. But Mo, if I'm Wemby, I'm pulling this next shot from the logo to call game.
He's a pretty cocky young man. It wouldn't surprise me if he did it.
Genuinely, I feel like it almost feels like it's just time to rest the starters if you're OKC anyway. But
that's what I said. Like, come on, Dagnall. Like, y'all about to. I mean, you're on the verge of going down 30. You're not making a run.
Yeah, but here comes Shea. I'm guessing they'll try to do one last run, and when it doesn't work,
I guess if you could cut it to 12 or something like that, yeah, you're still in the game. But it seems like, to their credit, San Antonio's defense has done a terrific job of taking away driving lanes from the Thunder. And when the Thunder have drove and kicked, their shooters aren't making shots.
No, absolutely. That's it. Like I said, it feels like this one's already out of reach. They're almost down 30. I didn't realize. Oh, Kenrich Williams. Yeah, you can tell he's starting to get into his bench because here comes Kenrich Williams. What was that?
So before the season started, and you can appreciate this better than anybody, because for the last 3 years, Shams had Giannis getting traded. So, and we always joke that the two teams that have the assets to bring Giannis back, I think they're on the court right now. And I'm not saying that to say the Spurs are going to pursue Giannis, but if the Thunder were to lose the series and come up short, look, time is linear, and SGA is in his prime, and you have to be realistic about what J-Dub's ceiling is, what Chet's ceiling is. Like, do you think, like, well, in a couple of more years, Chet will be as good or better than Wemby, or almost as good as Wemby? I'm gonna say no. I don't think that's going to change. And I think Chet Holmgren, by the way, is a really good player, But I think very much like Evan Mobley, what you see, that's who he is. That's who Chet is. In a lot of ways, Evan Mobley and Chet are actually very similar. And so I think they have value. But if Oklahoma City comes up short, if anybody's getting moved, I think Chet Holmgren, because I do think he would consider a big move. And a big move would be they're not going to pursue Durant. I don't know anybody that would really. Somebody will, but they shouldn't. I don't think they would bring Giannis in. More importantly, I don't think Giannis would have interest in going to Oklahoma City.
I feel like a team in the West will end up with. I feel like almost it feels like a team in the West will be the team to end up with OKC. It's weird with. It's going to be weird with team building for the next few years, Mo, because it feels like you're at a situation now where you got to start somewhat, at least trying to gear your roster towards, all right, how do we handle that dude in San Antonio?
Yeah.
When a real generational player, it's kind of what happens, right? When, it happened to Shaq in LA, what were rosters geared towards? How do we compete with Shaq? LeBron in Miami and Cleveland, you build your roster. Why? Because 23 staring you down at the end.
Right.
Now,
right.
I think that we're running into an era where teams are going to have to start looking at San Antonio and be like, okay, how do we...
Ooh! Okay. What Wemby just did, that kind of goes to this conversation.
Just straight up sun Chet right there.
Yeah. You know somebody's gonna make that into a TikTok video. Look.
Oh no, they're doing it in slow mo. Oh no.
Again,
the slow mo.
I think Chet is a very good basketball player, but like to your point, when you're dealing with a generational talent, somebody that literally moves the foundation of the league. And it's not just that he's there, he's already got his two sidekicks in place, and they're not sidekicks. They're just sidekicks because how special he is. But I think both of them are stars as well, right? Like that's the scary part. They're not finished products. Castle and Harper are going to get better. And then they're veterans. They have young veterans. Devin Vassell's 26. I think Keldon Johnson's 27. Like that team is going to be the road through the West is going to go through San Antonio. To me, it's going to go through them for the next 6-7 years. And if you're OKC, I get why you would want to win this year, because this might be your last best opportunity before they get even better. Which is why I said if OKC were to lose this series, I don't think Sam Presti just goes, we're fine, we'll just run it back. I think he looks at Wemby, recognizes the impact Wemby has, recognizes how good and how talented both Castle and Harper are. I think he makes moves based off of that. And I think, I don't know how interested Milwaukee's GM would or wouldn't be, but I think don't be surprised if Sam Presti calls him. He's got a ton of picks. He's got Chet Holmgren. I'm just saying.
I could see it. I honestly think that if they do move out of one of their two co-stars in OKC, it's probably J-Dub, which I would love me some J-Dub. And I think part of that too is just you would just need an unprecedented amount of length to try to deal with Wemby. So it almost feels like your best course of action is just run a Giannis and Chet front court and hope that's enough length to deal with Wemby. But also it feels like the reason why teams will end up trading a premium for Giannis still is because of Wemby, right?
Yeah.
One, Giannis had a terrific season this past year.
Yep.
The Bucks didn't, but Giannis did. Also, Giannis, I would say, at least still has 2 to 3 years of high-end elite play in him. And that's 2 to 3 years. You can try to take one off the Spurs and take one off Wemby or take one out of OKC. Or if you're OKC, that's 2 to 3 years where you can, try to really take it to OKC, because Giannis is a very rare breed in the sense that he's long, but he has he's shorter than Wemby, but he's a lot stronger than Wemby. He can throw
Much.
Wemby off balance.
Yeah, much stronger.
And in terms of offensive production, I don't think at this point Giannis has the defensive range that Wemby does, but Giannis is also just kind of a perfect Wemby counter on offense because not only can he replicate the production that Wemby gets, maybe Wemby's biggest but a bigger weakness is kind of the weakness of any shot blocker of his ilk. You have to put a shoulder into his chest, knock him off balance, and then take it up. And I don't think there's anybody more equipped to really throw Wemby off balance and stick with them, even defensively, than Giannis. So, like I said, Giannis just might be the best Wemby counter in the league. The question is, can you get him for a good enough price point that doesn't gut the team?
Yeah, well, that would be the key. I'm with you. I think Giannis's ability to play with force. I think he's uniquely suited to give Wemby some problems on both ends of the floor. Because I get Wemby's length in terms of blocking shots, but Giannis doesn't shoot floaters. He doesn't do anything soft. Everything he does with force and with power. And I think Wemby would have to adjust to that.
Yeah, so because we've seen it, Wemby got his every time he faced the Bucks, but Giannis normally countered with 30 pieces of his own right. Sam, we did mention Castle earlier. I think the biggest thing that Castle's got to work on is ball security.
Agreed.
I think this series has shown exactly why Castle does need De'Aaron Fox. People want to trade him now, but those first two games that he was out, let's be honest, Castle offensively was really bad. 20 turnovers in 2 games, that's absurd. And ever since Fox has come back, I believe it said he had 19 turnovers 19 assists to 5 turnovers. So I think what Castle has shown me is I actually am really excited. I think he's that all-star caliber guard that you kind of need because it seems like every championship team has the all-NBA guy and at least a couple all-star caliber guys. And I think one of those guys for the Spurs is Castle, but that ball security and ball protection has got to get worked on this summer before he's ready for a full-time guard on a championship team.
And look, we both think Castle's a terrific player. But yeah, he's got to work. He's got to work on his decision making and his ball security. And look, I love that he's got to learn how to pick and choose when to be ultra aggressive because he does get a lot of silly fouls. But look, I didn't learn anything about Castle. I already knew he was a special player. But we also talked about Dylan Harper. I think Castle's going to be tremendous. I think when it's all said and done, though, Harper's going to be actually better than Castle. Not a better defender per se, but in terms of what he's going to be as an offensive player. I can see Dylan Harper averaging 25 to 30 points a game. He's that gifted an offensive talent.
I say I'm excited.
And he's a big guard too. You almost forget because he's so quick and stuff. But Dylan Harper's a big dude, and so is Castle. So you have 2 big guards, 2 athletic, talented big guards, and then you've got an alien who can play out on the perimeter or the midi or in the post. Of course, if Oklahoma City loses this series, they're going to have to make some changes because this Spurs team. Never mind that if they make it to the finals, I'm not going to even leap ahead and say, well, if they win it all. But the point is, whether they win it all or not, they're not going away, Brett. They're going to be the roadblock in the Western Conference for the next 7 to 10 years.
And it feels like the Knicks obviously getting the news too. Man, Mitchell Robinson getting hurt in practices or training is rough. I know this is right now the best case scenario for the Knicks because you want Mitchell back for game 1, regardless of who you're facing. Because either Chet and Neihart or Wemby, you need Mitchell Robinson. So now it'll be interesting to see what updates we get on his progression because you can't you can't go into that either of these series without him. You need him. So we already kind of accept that he's going to be playing with a broken hand. But I guess the question is, how much will that really affect him?
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, say it.
I guess the benefit is, if there's a benefit, he's not known for his shooting. Like when Mitchell Robertson, when he's on the court to rebound and block shots. And he's probably easily the best offensive rebounder in basketball. He's a dominant offensive rebounder. He'll have a huge presence in any series in the role that he plays for the Knicks. I think the hand is a problem, but I think because of his skill set and what he does or what they ask of him, I think he can still be impactful.
Absolutely. As long as he can still grip the ball, considering his entire offense consists of dunks, then he'll be fine.
Right.
I think that's only my concern,
right.
if it messes with his grip. But as long as he can still grip a basketball, it's all right.
I really do believe that in OKC. What does Denver do this offseason? You know what I mean? Like I think there's questions in Denver. I think there's questions with the Timberwolves. Like the only teams that don't seem to be scrambling to make any adjustments, they're competing against each other right now. And because you look at the Spurs, and if I'm the Spurs GM, I'm like, the only thing I need to do is keep these young guys healthy, like, and let them continue to develop. Like, I do think you're right. They need to go out. They need to not downsize their bench, but maybe downsize the need for a veteran presence. Like, if you want to keep Harrison Barnes and Plumlee, I get it, but you absolutely don't need Bismack and Thor taking up roster spots.
Oh yeah, because I don't understand that. Like, I think the Spurs put together a great team, but like I said, the fact that they're rostering like 3 vets that don't play on top of the vets that do play, I'm like, you need vets, but I don't think you need like 5 of them. Because like I say, you already got also like, that's not even mentioning the fact that De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes are in the lineup. Like right. That's, I'd say pair those two with maybe like one of Bismack, Plumlee, or Olynyk, and that's enough veteran presence for the entire team. You're good on that, but the Spurs for some reason tripled down on that.
And don't forget, Cornette's a veteran. He's not new. He's not old, but he's not new. I think Cornette's like 30 years old. He's a veteran. You've got a vital veteran in your rotation in Cornette. De'Aaron Fox is 27. He'll be 28 next year, I believe. I think Keldon Johnson will be 28. They're veterans. You just have young veterans. And Devin Vassell will be 26 or 27. So those can be your veterans, young veterans. You don't have to have the guys that are 35 and older on your bench. If you do, you only need one of them, right? Like, everybody wants all of a sudden to have a Udonis Haslem. I get that. But Miami only had 1 UD. They didn't have 4. San Antonio's got 4 guys that don't even play.
I think, you know what? I think that's curtains on Wemby for tonight. I can't imagine that we're going to see any more. Well, I can't imagine we're going to see any. Like, I think in a second they're going to pull Harper and Fournette out there too.
Yeah, in about the next 2 minutes, this is going to start. Look, I know it's 5-on-5, but it's going to feel more like the big 3.
We're just talking about it. We're going to get the bench big 3 with Bismack, Plumlee, and Olynyk.
Yes. Somebody better make sure that they don't just have on their sweat tops, like they actually have their uniforms on underneath, because they don't play that much.
Plumlee actually, so Plumlee's funny because Plumlee has maybe the funniest highlight reel for his center, because you just don't expect how like fluid Plumlee can be handling the ball at times. So like, you'll forget he exists, and then he'll hit like some poor center with the nastiest crossover you've seen in a minute, and then proceed to do nothing for the next 3 weeks. Like, Plumlee is just such a funny player.
I think Olynyk's kind of like that too. Like every time you write off Kelly Olynyk out of nowhere, he'll end up being on somebody's bench, and then he has like a 20-point game out of nowhere, and then he doesn't do nothing for like the next couple of months or so. Like he's had a long career, and he's been effective in different places, but he just can't seem to stick in any one place.
I still think one of my favorite things is the fact they still boo Kelly Olynyk in Cleveland. That's so funny to me.
Is that for the Kevin Love thing, right?
It's for the Kevin Love injury a decade ago.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
still booed him
Yeah.
for it.
That's funny to me that they still boo him for that. Wow.
And that is why Castle's just so tough. What a finish in traffic.
He's very physically imposing. I keep telling people Wemby's their best player, but the guy that's got the dog in him, that's kind of like their Draymond Green, if you will, it's Castle. Castle's the emotional leader of that team.
It didn't even feel like bad defense by McCain. He stood in front of him. Castle's just too big for him and just moved him.
Yeah, he's a big dude, man. He's a big dude. That's like they're what they. It's funny because they've drafted like Sam Presti drafted when he was drafting, Durant and Westbrook and Harden and Ibaka. Like this guy got Castle, then Wemby, and now he's got Harper. And I'm telling everybody, all three of those guys are going to play in an all-star game together. And two of those guys, I'm certain, are going to be all NBA players. Well, Wemby's already an all NBA player. What I should say is Dylan Harper will be too. And I'm not ruling Castle out. I just think Harper is going to be a better all-around player.
No, absolutely. Hey, and you know what? They got a fun, intriguing wing on the bench too, and Carty O'Brien. I'd say see how he develops. Because hey, you know what? I
like him. That's the kid with the braids, right?
Yeah.
I like him a lot, and he's big.
I'd say he's got a great mentor too. I know a lot of people love like clowning Harrison Barnes because obviously he had some really brutal moments. Most notably the 2016 finals when he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. But hey, you know what? As a mentor and like locker room guy, there's really not a better guy that Brian can learn from.
What I like about Brian is that his offense is coming along slowly, but you can already see he's got terrific defensive instincts. Like if he just kept focusing on that, the kid's going to be an all NBA defender in no time. Like he's just got the right instinct. And because of his size, he can guard multiple positions. I think that having Harrison Barnes as a mentor is awesome. I think competing in practice against guys like Harper and Castle can only make him better.
No, absolutely. Oh, by the way, did you see the workout video from the one draft prospect that worked with you guys, Koa Pete? Let's see, I think he worked out with he worked out for the Lakers, I think, last week as part of like the whole like pre-draft workouts.
Uh-huh.
And if you haven't seen it, Mo,
I didn't see it.
I need you to look up that video because I need him to fire his shooting coach tomorrow. Like, I'm not even kidding. When I saw that young man shoot a basketball on that video, my first question was, is Jakeem Noah his shooting coach? Like, this man has two hands on the ball in front of his face. That's
rough of Jakeem Noah. Well, there could be somebody rougher. It could have been what is his name? I always forget his name.
Gilchrist?
You know who I was talking about. Ugh.
It makes me nervous because on one hand you go, well, if you put him with a good shooting coach, you can fix that. He's got insane athletic profile, and that's true. But also, Mo, how many times have we heard in the draft process, if you just put this guy shooting coach, a good shooting coach, it'll get fixed, and then it just never does. So I know Koa is somebody that's interesting. He's got a lot of fun athletic profile, but man, that jump shot worries me because it looks bad. Say that. Yeah, say that. Oh, I'd say if Harrison Barnes hits that, probably just call the rest of the game. You can probably just call the rest of the game right now.
Hey, look. So the Spurs took care of business. We're going 7. And look, just because they're going back home, anybody that's saying like, well, OKC, they'll just win it in 7. They did what they had to do to earn the number 1 seed to have home court advantage in the game 7. That's not a lock that they're going to win, especially if the Spurs can come out and do, Brett, what you said, take care of the basketball, play fast, and not let OKC turn it into a grind. If the Spurs play with pace and they shoot a good percentage from 3, I'll say this, if the Spurs can keep it close, I like their chances.
Absolutely. I'd say the home crowd helps, but it's not always a cure-all. Look at the 2016 Warriors. They got Game 7 in the finals in their home court at Oracle. And if there's one place where home court meant more than anything, it was Oracle Arena, and they couldn't finish the job there.
Yeah, and look, you know how this works. Yes, you're psyched to have Game 7 at home because your crowd will be into it and all that. But if the other team is able to keep the game close and you go into the fourth quarter, the team that feels pressure is not the visiting team. The team that feels all the pressure is the home team. If we go into the fourth quarter and OKC's only up by 5 or down by 5 for that matter, I think they're in trouble. I think if they're going to beat San Antonio, they're going to have to get some separation before the fourth quarter.
If I'm Wemby Mo Game 7, I'm coming out guns blazing. I feel like the best thing the Spurs can do is shut that crowd up early. So if I'm Wemby, boy, I'm going for it early. Like I don't care. I'm taking like 10 shots in the first minute. Obviously hyperbole, but at the same time, like if you're San Antonio, first thing, calm the crowd down. Don't. But at the same time, Mo, if you're San Antonio, in all reality, you don't really have anything to lose at this point. Like, you're playing with house money to an extent. Like, yes, you don't want to waste any of Wemby's, years. But at the same time, this has already been a successful season for them. And 2, all of their really good, like, young players are still on rookie contracts. So it's not like they lose. And then we got to talk about, do they have to trade Castle Harper? Do they have to start bringing in vets? Like, they still have plenty of time and cap space to figure this all out, regardless of the outcome of Game 7. So, if you're the Spurs, like, I think regardless of the result, fantastic season by San Antonio. Well done.
1,000%. And I'm with you. Whatever the outcome of Game 7 is, I think the Spurs should walk into Game 7 with all the confidence in the world. And if they should lose, I think they should walk out with all the confidence in the world. Disappointed, but with all the confidence in the world. You're right. This has already been a successful season. But like I said, that's the scary thing about them. I think they're playing with house money, and OKC is the team that's going to have to come out and set the tone, because I do feel like they're the team with all the pressure. I don't think the Spurs have any pressure on them at all. Like zero. I think they have zero pressure. Like there was pressure to win Game 6, and they literally came out and stumped the Thunder. So mission accomplished. I think San Antonio is playing with nothing but house money. And if OKC is going to win Game 7, never mind SGA having a 30-point game and giving you 8 or 9 assists. You're going to need a big game from Chet. You're going to need a big game from Caruso. You're going to need a big game from I don't think Mitchell's coming back, but they brought J-Dub back for this game, but he doesn't look right to me. He didn't look right to me the whole time he was in the game. I think they're going to have to work their magic again. The last 2 games they've lost, their bench has done nothing, including tonight. They didn't do anything. But I also think their starters are getting off to slow starts. If they get off to a slow start in a game 7, that could be problematic. I as a selfish fan, Brett, hope game 7 comes all the way down to where we're under a minute and 2 being tied. I want that kind of finish in a game 7.
Absolutely. I would say I think the game 7's X factor will end up indeed just being straight up Chet Holmgren. Clearly, J-Dub is not 100%. Chet is the guy getting that max contract. So Chet, I'm going to need you to step up like you're the number 2 because you are in all reality. So I think, like I said, I think Chet will be the X factor. And I think Chet will be kind of like the deciding factor if they go home or not tomorrow. Because I know SGA will show up to play. I'm not worried about Saturday with SGA. SGA is built for this kind of thing. But again, is Chet? Is he ready for?
You know what? I can't. I was gonna say the key. I think you brought up the key. The biggest piece to all of it is Chet. I'm not putting it all on him. It can't be all on him, obviously, because he's not their best player. He's not the back-to-back MVP. So there's going to be a level of responsibility, obviously, for SGA because of what he is. But they're not going to win Game 7 on SGA having a 30-point night. They'll win Game 7 because Chet had a 20-point night and maybe 13 rebounds and a couple of blocks. And Wemby might still go, let's say Wemby might go for 35 and 15. I don't expect Chet to outplay him, but he needs to play well enough where he can offset him.
No, absolutely. Like at the end of the day, I think he just needs to slow down Wemby. I don't need him to stop him if Wemby goes for 40 on Saturday. Whatever. Chet just needs to make sure it's like 40 on 37 shots instead of 40 on like 20 shots.
Yes.
That's kind of where I'm at with Chet. Like, you need to step up offensively. At the same time, even if you cannot do that, I at least need you to make sure I need you to just slow down Victor enough to give everybody else a chance.
And your point about the Spurs, I couldn't agree with you more. If I'm Miss Johnson, I'm telling Wemby, I need you to take at least at a minimum 25 shots. And if you want to take more, then take more. Like I need you to come into Game 7 guns blazes. And I'm with you. We need to shut that crowd's mouths immediately. Matter of fact, if we can, let's call a play up. First play out the box, run a lob, backdoor cut, Wemby slam. Start right there like that. But I need Wemby to be aggressive from quarter 1 to quarter 4. Like this should be a game where at a minimum he has 30, but he might have 40. Like that, it should be that kind of game. I'm gonna need Wemby to take more than 20 shots. I need 15 or more rebounds. I need 4 or 5 blocks. I can't even I'll lose count on how many blocks or shots altered I need. Like this is the game where he shows you why he's the difference maker that he is. And I know he's got help with Castle and Harper, but if I'm Mitch Johnson, I'm telling Wemby, I don't need you to have 8 or 9 assists this game. I'm good if you go for 40 points and 15 rebounds.
Yeah, and I think my concern though with Wemby, it's really simple, Mo. This is a guy that all for the better part of a year has been playing lower minutes. And I know he's done it a couple of times. He's averaging about 38 for this playoff run, which is great for Wemby. I love that for him. But even your great players, if they're not used to that heavy minutes, they run out of gas.
Fair.
Does Wemby
Fair
have
point.
the gas? Wemby, game 7, Mo? I know what I'm not going to say Wemby might not leave the court because we're going to try to get him some rest. But if it's a close game, Mo, like we might be looking at Wemby having to play like over 40 minutes. And if he has to play over 40 minutes, does he have the stamina and energy to just go as hard as he can for 40, 45 minutes or so, however long they need him?
And that's a fair point. And I do think there are times in this series where he looked a little worn down because he's not used to playing that many minutes. And the games are every other night, and that could have a toll on you, especially when you draw as much attention as he draws. So that's a fair point. Because I'm sure if you're Mark Daigneault, you're on the other end and you're like, we got to get at him early. We got to disrupt him. When he's coming off the ball or coming to the ball, we have to fight him for him to get the ball. Like I would tell them, like, I don't want you guarding him once he gets the basketball. I want you guarding him before he gets the basketball. If we're fronting him or we're playing behind him would help, but I want you to be consistently aggressive with Wemby, because what I don't want is I do not want him to get off to a fast start.
And I think another key that the Thunder might have to consider, Mo, is I know on offense the starters have tended to avoid Wemby, which I think has also helped, is a big reason why their Spurs are winning the Wemby minutes. Because in all reality, if I only have to worry about the Thunder attacking one side of the court because they refuse to go near Wemby, then they're just that much easier to guard. If I'm the Thunder, I think you also have to consider just kind of trying to put Wemby in as many actions as possible. Like, don't let him rest on defense at all. Like, you're going to have to get into his chest and challenge him at the rim. Say, make sure it's his man that you're, running a pin down for. Even if he doesn't shoot, force Wemby to chase some of these shooters around screens. Like, do everything in your power to make sure that Wemby is in every action early. So that, guess what, by the fourth quarter, when you're into like that 40, 41, 42-minute mark for Wemby, he's panting. Like, you put him in the doghouse. Like, I think that's going to be key. Like, go at Wemby earlier if you're the Thunder. Try to set yourself up for success later.
I think that should be their strategy for everybody. It's game 7. I think when OKC's at their best, they're turning you over with their defense, and then they play fast offensively. But they only play fast offensively when their defense is turning you over. When they're turning you over on defense, then they'll run. But offensively, normally they like to walk it out and break you down and beat you with half-court execution. I think they might want to play a little bit faster, just because every time they try to play to a grind when they lose, the Spurs have done a terrific job of disrupting SGA and getting him off his spots. I know he's averaging a decent amount of points, but still shooting under 40% for the series. And that, to me, that says a lot for a guy who shoots 55, 56% normally during the regular season. So maybe do some things with SGA off the ball instead of making him always the primary. You have other options, obviously, with McCain. I don't think they're getting Mitchell back, but J-Dub is back, and he can obviously be a secondary ball handler. So maybe not have SGA unball so much. That way they're not so predictable offensively.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I guess we're going to find out as we have the end of the game. It is official. We are getting game 7. This works out well for the fans. I love it. And, of course, this works out great for the Knicks. That's an extra 2 days off for them to rest. So Wemby's all business. He ran out of that post-game presser like, yep, all right, got to go prepare for game 7. Love to see it, by the way.
I do too. He knows job's not done. And like I said, a young player, but he's got a different mindset from a lot of younger players. I appreciate that about him.
That was a kind of funny replay moment that they just showed where Castle just kind of goes, wait a minute, Wemby's down there, and he's getting guarded by Jalen Williams and saying, so you're getting guarded by Williams. All right, I'm just going to throw this lob up, and Wemby just goes right over the top of it. Nothing anybody can do about it.
Right.
Oh, man. Shay, but Mo, before we get out of here, real quick, say, do you like the new anti-tanking reform rules, or do you think they're just kind of an overcorrection as Silver just kind of overcorrect?
I think I think it's a severe overcorrection. I can appreciate him trying to do something. This is not the answer. This is the kind of overcorrection that he's going to have to turn around maybe next offseason, because you're going to have to experience it this offseason, but and correct the overcorrection. That's how bad it. I just think what he did. This isn't even him putting a Band-Aid over the problem. I think this is just moving the problem around and creating another problem.
Yeah, like I said, I still don't like the idea when somebody mentioned the fact, like when somebody's like, well, if teams try to tank, then Adam Silver can still just, swap their pick, find them or whatever. No, that's kind of part of the problem. Like, you created a system where I'm supposed to believe that Adam Silver's going to be a absolutely impartial judge of everyone. Like, I don't necessarily like Adam Silver being judge, jury, and executioner on all these. But say, yeah, Mo, that's all I had for us today. Anything you wanted to add before we get up on out of here?
Well, I had a blast as always. Even though it was not a great game, I guess in some ways we kind of got what we wanted, because we do get a game 7, which gives us the opportunity to have a great and epic game 7, and I'm looking forward to it.
No, absolutely. And I'd say I'm looking forward to next week when we hop back on. We'll be give you an NBA Finals preview. We'll talk some more WNBA. It's gonna be a great time. I love it, and hopefully soon I'll be able to get back to doing Meaty Boys as well. Been throwing a lot of 6-day work weeks at me, so it's been quite a challenge to get everything done in the span of one day. But like I said, we definitely appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll make sure to keep bringing you great content. Please subscribe to the Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. You can support us all over. And that being said, we thank you for tuning in and enjoy the rest of your night.